The story begins in the first year of high school, in Class 2, where we see Rokudo Tsouke being thrown by Linoma, who laughs at him, accompanied by Tsubaki and Tisonoyama. Rokudo returns to his seat, thinking about how he is just a toy for the school's delinquents, while his two friends, Hinomoto Massura, known as Colonel, and Kiji Makota, the boss, console him by offering him part of their snacks. The betas hear Tsubaki's laughter and take a look at her legs. She notices and takes it out on the disgusting nerds. Quickly, her boyfriend, Linoma, asks what happened, and she explains the situation. Linoma warns that if they look at his girl again, they will pay dearly. The three are shaken, and Rokudo thinks about how there are many delinquents in his school, and how it always ends up like this for weak and nerdy students like them. He goes to the bathroom, trying to lie to himself, saying that he just needs to endure it. Soon after, he has a moment of outburst, telling the bullies to fuck off. While his friends argue about Tsubaki's skirt, they come to a consensus that they will never look at it again. After all, everyone has thighs. They complain about how unfair the world is, and how the delinquents who ruin everything end up doing, well, while good students like them end up at the bottom. All they want to do is enjoy school life, nothing more. It is then that Linoma enters the bathroom, and they overhear him talking about receiving an invitation to join Onishihima, an organization of delinquents. He claims that when he reaches third year, he will be the boss of everyone. The nerds are shocked, thinking, "What do you mean, boss of everyone?" The colonel suggests that they should relax by playing video games at Rokudo's house to de-stress, and everyone agrees. When they arrive at Rokudo's house, they find a package sent by his late grandfather. Curious, they open the package, wondering what it could be, and discover a Naruto-style scroll, which supposedly grants power. Hinomoto asks if Rokudo's grandfather was right in the head, and Rokudo explains that he doesn't have many memories of him, as he died when Rokudo was very young. However, he remembers that his grandfather was very fond of him, and that there was a family treasure passed down through the generations. A scroll from the Heian period, containing spells used by the Onmyoji, to be used in dangerous situations. In the end, they decide to use the supposed power, since they are in a dangerous situation. The scroll begins to glow, and Rokudo gains a pentagram tattoo right on his forehead, looking, in fact, like a son of the devil. Not knowing what to expect, he goes to school as usual. And soon two delinquents, accompanied by a girl, decide to approach him, demanding his money. Rokudo warns them that it's best not to do that, since he is the heir to the powers of an Onmyoji, but ends up getting punched in the face. However, the girl next to him tells them not to bother him. Arriving at school, Lil Uma says that Rokudo will share lunch with them. Tsouke asks them to stop bothering Rokudo's friends, but notices that Tsubaki is looking at Rokudo differently. He mentions this to his friends in the bathroom, but they believe it to be pure coincidence. At that moment, Tsubaki knocks on the door and apologizes for everything bad she did to Rokudo, leaving her friends confused, as they don't believe that a demon like her would be apologizing. Meanwhile, a bad-looking blonde walks down the street. She meets three delinquents and asks the biggest one if he's the boss. He makes fun of her, and as a result, she ends up beating up everyone there. About 10 guys. We return to our nerds, who are walking down the street and realize that only the problematic girls are attracted to Rokudo, who has now become an alpha. Linoma arrives furious, asking what he did to Tsubaki, showing a photo of Rokudo as the wallpaper on her cell phone. Rokudo starts to get shocked, not knowing how to react, concluding that magic is real, because even the most badass girls are enchanted by him. Desperate, he runs away and ends up bumping into that blonde who had beaten everyone up, enchanting her with his magic too. Moments later, we see that she is in the same room as our protagonist, not understanding anything. It is revealed that she just didn't usually attend classes. Tsunoyama goes to get satisfaction from the girl at Linoma's request, but she completely ignores him, with a scary expression. However, when Rokudo talks to her, her expression changes to friendly and blushing. She introduces herself as Rima Warana. Suddenly, our protagonist is punched by Tisonoyama. Himawari, Rima, picks up a table with only one arm and smashes it over Tisonoyama's head, defending Rokudo and causing Tsunoyama to wake up hospitalized without understanding anything. Rokudo, desperate, runs away, thinking about changing schools, because he doesn't see how he could be around such a strong blonde. However, he remembers that she has beautiful thighs, and ends up having a moment between the two in the middle of a bridge. It is revealed that Himari, Rima Warana, is a true monster, pure evil and strength, and that anyone who has her as an ally will be invincible. So, our protagonist promises to protect her, rekindling his masculinity and becoming a true alpha in spirit. The next day, he arrives at school and is surrounded by 8 girls, all wanting to grab the hottie. Himari scares them all away with her angry presence. They talk, and he asks Himari not to get into fights. Soon after, Linoma demands satisfaction from Rokudo for all the girls being at his feet, and promises that she will finish him off at some point. Rokudo returns to the classroom and sees that Himari was beaten without fighting back, because of the promise she made to him not to fight. This makes Rokudo feel ashamed and decides that he no longer wants to depend on her. So, he challenges Linoma alone. The fight begins, and Rokudo lands a weak punch. Linoma counterattacks with a nice right punch. The boy screams in his face. "Who do you think you are, you damn delinquent?" Shocking everyone around him. After all, Rokudo has always been a little fool. Linoma starts to feel bad when Himari appears, but continues to punch Rokudo in the face several times in a row. However, Rokudo does not fall, standing firm, taking the blows without giving in, to fulfill his promise. Unconsciously, he asks Himari for help, who immediately, with a right punch so powerful that it sounds like thunder, ends the fight, hospitalizing Linoma. Impressed by Rokudo's resistance, Linoma begins to respect him. We see Rokudo crying in the rain, embarrassed for having needed Himari's help. The next day, the class representative observes the nerd's behavior, and it is revealed to us that good girls are not affected by Rokudo's powers. However, when she sees several bad girls surrounding the boy, she is shocked, thinking he was a good boy. Linoma calls Rokudo at the school gate, and they end up eating together. The group that previously wanted Rokudo's money shows up, and, to their surprise, discovers that he is now Linoma's friend. However, Rokudo says nothing to save his skin, enjoying lunch with his new friends. He is happy to know that they are now friends and receives a message from Linoma, informing him that the school's headmaster, who is at the top of the food chain, Osanada, is looking for him. Suddenly, Rokudo is approached by a guy with purple hair and his girlfriend, who want to take him to Osanada. When he is threatened, his spell activates, and the girl next to the guy starts protecting Rokudo, making the guy with purple hair furious. Linoma appears, saying that if anyone is going to face Rokudo, they will have to face him too. Rokudo's friends appear, saying that he doesn't need to fight or do such crazy things anymore. But Rokudo is determined, because he doesn't want to be a weakling who only cries anymore. This motivates the rest of the nerds. The guy with purple hair goes after Rokudo, but Himari suddenly appears, joining the Colonel, Linoma, and our protagonist, forming a new group. They warn that if Osanada has anything to say, to send a message, or the guy with purple hair will have to face the 5 of them. Rokudo yells, saying that she is not afraid of this Osanada guy. But Linoma reveals that Osanada is actually a girl who appears to be in elementary school. The next day, Osanada appears in Rokudo's classroom, and Linoma states that if she tries to crush Rokudo, they will fight. Rokudo's spell activates, but it seems to have no effect on Osanada, who starts saying that he is dead. The atmosphere becomes tense, and Osanada immediately notices the frightening presence of Himawari, who stares at her non-stop, calling her to a fight. Rokudo intervenes, trying to calm the two down, and, of course, Himawari hears everything. He says. Then, Osanada punches Rokudo in the face, who seems to be very weak. She finds it strange, and asks the colonel to come closer. Tell him to get down, and performs a one-punchman on his face, making him turn into cement on the wall. Even so, she doesn't understand why Rokudo won't give in, since it's very difficult to break him. She decides to take him to her room in the old school building, where it is revealed that she loves cute things. She even gives Rokudo permission to visit her whenever he wants. He piques her interest by being mysterious and causing her to feel feelings she's never felt before. Because of the spell, Rokudo becomes Osanada's first and only love. Feeling guilty about this, Rokudo thinks he should turn her into a good girl to prevent these feelings from growing. So, he makes a lame excuse, saying that he needs to go back to his classroom. However, it is revealed that Osanada failed twice, so she stays in the first year. Rokudo sees this as an opportunity to guide Osanada and help her become a good person. Soon after, Osanada joins Rokudo's class. The colonel questions him, asking if he is sure about the plan, since Osanada is a real untamable shrew. Rokudo confirms that he has already come up with the perfect plan. During the oral reports, he proposes that the students observe the plant. Life in the school garden, since there are many flowers and it would be easy to follow without needing calculations or complicated science. Some students question the idea, but with the support of his new friends and Osanada, who tells anyone who disagrees to stand up, it becomes clear that anyone who challenges Rokudo will have to face the consequences. Now, Rokudo is at the top of the group's hierarchy. With the class agreeing, everyone goes to water and study the plants in the courtyard. Himawari asks what she should do, and Rokudo asks her to follow him. He shows her sunflowers that have not yet bloomed, creating a romantic atmosphere between the two. At this point, the colonel and the school principal realize that their plan to transform the school can work, reforming everyone and using their powers for good. The atmosphere in the school changes, with the students comparing and discussing their notes on the plants. However, Anishirima questions Osanada about her stance, reminding her that her original plan was to drop out of school and cause chaos. However, Osanada seems to have other interests, especially when it comes to Rokudo. Later, Osanada confesses that she is happy to become friends with Rokudo, but when she goes to check on the plants, she finds the garden completely destroyed. Furious, Osanada discovers that this was the work of Kuroka, who does not accept her actions. In a fit of rage, Osanada beats everyone up. Rokudo runs to the flower beds and upon seeing the scene, is shocked to realize that it was Osanada who had beaten everyone up. The atmosphere becomes tense, and a heated argument breaks out between Rokudo and Kuroka. At that moment, Osanada finally understands her feelings for Rokudo. She realizes that she is in love, and confesses her love for Rokudo. Soon after, she says goodbye to him, leaving him confused and alone. Meanwhile, Kuroka is involved in a gang fight, revealing her true intentions, to rise to the top of the school hierarchy, using Osanada as an unstoppable weapon, as only another monster could face her. Shortly after, Himawari arrives at the site of the destroyed flower beds. Rokudo, without hesitation, asks the blonde for help in saving Osanada and other people who are trapped in bad influences. Himawari agrees to help Rokudo, and the two head to the warehouse where the Onishihima organization is located. Himawari, as always, does not disappoint. With several punches and knees, she knocks out all the members of the group, while Rokudo reads the notes about the flowers made by Osanada. Suddenly, he is punched by Kuroka, but despite being beaten, he continues reading the notes. With his face completely deformed, he persists, which makes Osanada conflict with his own emotions. With a smile on his face, Rokudo approaches Osanada and gives an Oscar-worthy speech, while at the same time shouting angrily at Kuroka. His words touch Osanada deeply, convincing her to start her life over with dignity. In a few seconds, she throws herself in front of Rokudo to defend him from a blow from Kuroka, using her own body as a shield. Soon after, the enemy gang's cavalry arrives, but the colonel and the chief manage to immobilize the gang's reinforcements using a barrel of wax. With the help of Linoma, who reveals that she gave the information to make the plan possible, they escape. The Onishihima organization vows revenge against the new group formed by Rokudo and his friends. The next day, a new character appears. Himeno Azami, a determined girl who already knows what her future profession will be. She wants to be a police officer so she can ride a motorcycle and protect people. Interestingly, Rokudo has also just gotten his driver's license, but there's a problem. He doesn't have a motorcycle. Azami then gives him a motorcycle as a gift, but Rokudo thinks it's really ugly. Even so, he gets excited and goes out to try out the vehicle. However, as always, things don't go as expected. Azami, who was patrolling as if he were already a police officer, shows up and hits Rokudo's motorcycle. The next moment, the power of the spell activates, and Azami is enchanted by him, without understanding what's happening. The next day, Azami goes to school and introduces herself to Rokudo, returning the driver's license he had dropped. Rokudo thanks her, but soon Linoma shows up with the motorcycle full of ugly modifications. Azami, upon seeing the motorcycle, begins to cry in disgust, Rokudo thinks she has left, but in fact she returns and offers him noodles on her motorcycle before they leave. Himawari appears, holding the motorcycle and preventing them from leaving. However, after Rokudo explains the situation, she lets them go. During the ride, Azami shows that she is a true adrenaline junkie, accelerating the motorcycle at maximum speed. Later, calmer, she offers Rokudo her services as a private driver, for free. And of course, Rokudo accepts the offer. Hours later, Osanada ends up breaking the clutch on the colonel's motorcycle due to her incredible strength. But when Azami arrives to pick up Rokudo and fix the bike, Osanada is overjoyed and hugs him for the first time. This is the first hug that Rokudo receives from a girl, although in a somewhat unusual way. During a conversation, Azami tells that, in her childhood, she was saved by a police officer, which inspired her to want to be a motorcyclist and a police officer. Afterwards, the two separate and go their separate ways. But soon, a boy appears, talking about Azami, claiming that she is pretending to be a police officer and beating up everyone she meets on the street. Rokudo, shocked, realizes that the boy is part of the Onishihima organization. Linoma reveals that the boy's name is Furuwa Aoi, the number 3 of Onishihima, and says that some time ago, he beat up a police officer who was on patrol on a motorcycle. Rokudo begins to worry about Azami and decides to talk to her to convince her to stop her impulsive actions. The next day, the Onishihima gang organizes a meeting, and it is certain that Azami will show up to take revenge on Aoi, since he was the one responsible for beating up the police officer who saved her when she was a child. Rokudo, determined to prevent anything bad from happening to her, promises his friends that Aoi will pay dearly for what she did. Now, with everyone ready for battle, Rokudo prepares to face the Onishihima organization and protect Azami, showing that despite everything, he will not let anyone hurt a girl while he is around. The next night, Aoi is being chased by Azami, who does not forgive any bums, but he had a plan. It was all a strategy to corner her along with the other guys from Onishihima. Suddenly, the nerds appear on their motorcycles and announce that they have come to save Azami. Aoi, provocative, suggests a challenge, a deadly motorcycle tag game, where the goal is to reach and touch him. The only rule is that Rokudo must stay on Aoi's back, and if he falls, the game is over. Meanwhile, Himawari finds out what happened through 2 crazy people and sets off in a hurry to where Rokudo is. The Tokyo Revengers cosplayers accept the challenge, and the chase begins, with everyone riding at top speed. Aoi, skilled, even stands up on his motorcycle, showing how prepared he was for that tag game. On the other side, the bully Linoma and the other nerds face Onishihima's henchmen. Linoma has the brilliant idea of throwing his motorcycle at the enemies, knocking them all down at once. However, he didn't count on the arrival of more reinforcements to finish him off. At this point, the powerful Himawari steps in, throwing iron at everyone and saving the nerd's skin. Worried about Rokudo, she decides, for the first time, not to interfere directly so as not to hurt his pride. Instead, she openly confesses her love for him, something she has been keeping to herself for a long time. Meanwhile, Aoi reveals to Rokudo the true event that changed Azami's life. In the past, Aoi was just playing a game of tag with a police officer which resulted in the accident that almost took Azami's life. Fortunately, she was saved by the police officer, which led her to swear revenge on Aoi. Now she is determined to settle the score with him. Rokudo, with his Naruto-style speech, tries to calm Azami down and avoid a tragic confrontation. But Aoi, wanting to provoke, increases the speed of the motorcycle to the limit, reaching 100 km/h. Even so, Rokudo holds on, but ends up falling. However, Azami catches him, and together they manage to win the dispute, with Rokudo teaching Aoi a real lesson. Himawari is overjoyed to see that her boyfriend is back in one piece, while Azami, now victorious, asks Aoi to meet with her once, again to talk and resolve everything with the police officer involved in the past. The next day, Rokudo notices that the number of girls interested in him is increasing, but with a crazy Uber, a powerful blonde and a short girl who could go toe-to-toe with Saitama himself around him, it won't be easy for them to approach him. Later, everyone gathers at Rokudo's house to enjoy some free time. Every time Rokudo leaves the room, Himawari displays a demonic aura, as if she is about to evaporate anyone who dares to get close. Like a true knight, Linoma finally delivers the gift he has been trying to give Himawari since early morning, making her fall even more in love with him. The next day, everyone is tasked with cleaning the classroom, but with Azami and Himawari causing destruction, the task becomes nearly impossible. Later, when everyone meets at a restaurant, Rokudo notices that Himawari is not wearing the hair clip he gave her. But when she arrives all dressed up, Himawari reveals that she actually kept the clip on her wrist so that she can see and remember Rokudo all the time. A true display of passion. Linoma warns that now that Rokudo has defeated the third member of Onishihima, he will be hunted by the entire gang. Terrified, Rokudo even considers apologizing, but soon discovers that this will not be possible. The gang leader, Doji, is already after Himawari for a chat. In a flashback, we see a city completely destroyed, and the one responsible for it is Himawari. She destroyed everything, and for some reason, the incident is still not fully clarified. The next day, the guys from Onishihima enroll in the same school as Rokudo. He already thinks he will be the next target, but, to his surprise, Doji congratulates him for having defeated Aoi. However, Doji cannot hide his fear when looking at Himawari. Doji has a plan to bring Rokudo and the girls into his gang, believing that, with them by his side, he will become unbeatable. In the classroom, a girl named Yasha keeps staring at Rokudo, increasing his feeling that something bad is about to happen. Moments later, while Rokudo is talking to his nerdy friends about how strange everything is, a boy enters the bathroom and Rokudo's power activates in him. Desperate, Rokudo starts running, fearing that the boy would kiss him. However, the boy was actually a girl named Rino, the sister of Kaseno, a member of the Onishihima who beats up anyone who dares to touch him. Doji then tries to defeat Himawari in every possible way, but nothing works. It is only at this moment that he realizes Himawari's weak point, the short nerd with the devil mark on his forehead, who somehow has the power to destabilize her. Kazeno notices that his sister is acting strangely, so he decides to get satisfaction from her. When he confronts her, he ends up accidentally touching her melons, and in response, he receives a knee so violent that he faints on the spot. Later, when Rokudo returns to the classroom, Yasha, the pretty girl, comes to talk to him about the types of boys she likes. She mentions that she loves very strong men, citing Linoma as a good example. However, to Rokudo's surprise, Yasha reveals that she is in love with him, and even gives him a love letter. Just as Yasha tries to confess her feelings, Himawari appears in the room, and her mere presence makes Yasha leave silently, angry, but promising herself that one day, she will deliver the letter to Rokudo. The next morning, Rokudo goes out to get more cardboard for the school play, but ends up getting into trouble with a gang of girls. His absurd power makes all the girls instantly fall in love with him. Soon after, Yacht Toim, the leader of the group, appears to reprimand the girls and tell them not to mess with anyone anymore. To everyone's surprise, Himawari appears, and Yacht Toim hugs her warmly, as the two have a history together. In the past, Himawari was part of the group of girls, and Yacht Toim met her when Himawari helped them defeat bums who were prejudiced against women. It was a moment of great recognition, so much so that Yacht Toim gave his wooden sword to Himawari as a thank you. In the next scene, everyone is in the schoolyard rehearsing for the plays, but Doji, after seeing a photo that one of his henchmen gave him, changes his attitude completely. He and the Onshima gang quickly leave, saying that time is short and that they need to finish this once and for all. Doji, manipulative as ever, creates a false story, claiming that his group was attacked by Yugo's girls' gang, and that Rokudo should help them get revenge. Rokudo, shrewd, doesn't fall for it. He realizes that Himawari is the one truly involved in the mess. Doji, realizing that Himawari is the key, demands that she join Onshima or leave Rokudo once and for all to stop causing trouble in his life. Himawari, furious, attacks Doji, but, in order to protect Rokudo, ends up accepting the conditions imposed. When Rokudo returns to the room, Himawari has already disappeared, and Doji announces that she is now part of Onshima. She will have to fight Yugo's group the next day to prove that her personality belongs to the underworld. Rokudo is devastated by the news, but Haru appears to give him strength, telling him that he is not alone in this battle against the Onshima Union. That night, Rokudo shares the news with his group, and the colonel, more experienced, realizes that it was all a setup to frame Yugo's group. He follows two girls who were plotting the plan and discovers that Reno and Kazino, the brothers who pretended to be members of Yugo, are the real enemies. Rokudo's plan now is to prevent the Yugo girls from appearing at the festival, as he fears that Reno will hurt his friend Otori. On an overpass, Rokudo knows that his plan will only be complete when Himawari confronts her former group and shows that she does not belong in common society. As Doji gives his final orders, reinforcing that everyone there belongs to the underworld and that they must leave the school, Himawari, overcome with rage, breaks the ground with a blow to warn that no one must touch Rokudo. Otherwise, the next thing to be broken will be the head of whoever dares to hurt him. Rokudo and the colonel, in turn, confirm the location of each member of the group, ensuring that all areas where Yugo's girls might pass are covered to prevent any attempt at confrontation at the festival. The colonel, terrified that the Onshima Union might send someone to beat them up, freezes in fear when a mysterious figure arrives. To his surprise, it is only Reno, who kneels down and apologizes, revealing that she is actually a woman. She explains that she no longer wants to be a part of Onshima and wants to be by Rokudo's side. The protagonist believes her and welcomes her, asking them to be strong together as comrades, much to Reno's heart. However, in the meantime, the Yugo girls pass by on their motorcycles, and before they can get off to face the situation, Reno surprisingly kicks the colonel hard. This shocks both Rokudo and the colonel, as Reno is not who they thought. In reality, Reno is the older brother, Amano, a deceitful and manipulative demon who was just having fun by deceiving Rokudo. Meanwhile, the real Reno has indeed betrayed the Onshima Union, but is suffering the consequences of it. Amano laughs at the chaos he has created, accepting his victory and allowing the Yugo girls to pass on to the school. Upon arriving there, the girls are surrounded by delinquents. On the bridge, Rokudo is awakened by his group and runs to the school. Kazino finds Reno tied up and remembers when she chose Rokudo's side, practically declaring herself to him. She was beaten mercilessly by Amano, which infuriates Kazino. He blames Rokudo for allowing his sister to get caught up in this mess, but at the same time leaves without untying her. The number 4 of the Onshima Union, H, prepares to face Yottoim, who he plans to soften up elsewhere. However, when the girl takes off her helmet, H finds not what he expected. Instead, the real alphas, who dress as women to protect other girls, reveal themselves. They are the former Onshima Union gang, and the plan was devised by the colonel and executed by Rokudo's personal Uber. The real Yugo girls are outside the school, and Tisa makes a fuss to get them out of there as quickly as possible. However, the girls are surrounded by enemies. However, one of them ends up being captured and used as bait to force Yottoim to surrender. Finally, when Rokudo and his group arrive at the school, they find Tsubaki lamenting the situation. Doji appears and has a conversation with Rokudo, stating that Himawari has always been a demon, and that he is trying to stop her from finding her true nature. Doji tries to convince Rokudo to give up on Himawari, so that he does not have to face her demonic side. However, a determined Rokudo reveals his Sigma power, loudly declaring that his goal is to make Himawari happy. Rokudo's group tries to confront the delinquents, but only Arua can hold the situation, as the others are weaker. Sanada, on the other hand, tries to argue, but is unsuccessful. Rokudo's private Uber arrives at the crucial moment, taking everyone on a motorcycle. However, they are stopped by Rando, who charges in front of the bike, knocking the passengers down with a devastating blow. Rando is interrupted by Saitama's daughter, who wants to talk to him. At the same time, more pursuers appear, hindering the progress of Uber and Rokudo's group. Sanada tries to make Rando realize that despite being big, he has a kind side. But it doesn't work, and Rando throws a gigantic punch that throws the girl away, destroying a locker. Rando was once a victim of bullying, and Doji saved him, turning him into a kind of guard dog from evil. Sanada, however, gets up with effort, determined to protect others. She faces Rando, receiving punches and kicks, but refuses to give up. In a moment of tension, Sanada takes off her shoes and, even after taking Rando's biggest punch, surprises him by resisting. She uses all her strength and the fury of Saitama's blood that runs through her veins to defeat Rando once and for all, leaving everyone amazed by her determination and strength. Rando begins to cry as he remembers how he was always the target of mockery, fearing that they would laugh at him once again. At that moment, He feels a gentle touch on his hair and realizes that it is Asanada, offering him comfort and care. Asanada tells him that he does not need to be afraid of making mistakes, and, reassured, Rando ends up falling asleep on the way. However, the peace does not last long. When they get close to Tirana, the number 2 of the Onshima Union blocks the way for Rokudo and his group. Tirana is so strong that Arua, even attacking with everything he has, cannot land a single punch. He ends up being thrown to the ground, like a punching bag, while his friends are also brutally beaten. Arua falls to his knees, helpless, remembering the terror of not being able to protect the people he loves. The only solution seems to be to give up on Himawari, but he refuses, remembering his past. Arua had a gang of friends, but they were forced to join Akai's gang through threats. Although Arua tried to convince his friends not to submit, they ended up giving in to fear. It was during this time that he met Tis, who consoled him and accepted his invitation to go out with his friends, a memory that still comforts him. He admires Rokudo for caring so much about his friends, even though he is weak. And although Arua is crying now, he decides that he will not give up. Akai receives a well-placed punch from one of his companions, becoming furious. However, Arua intervenes, determined to avenge his past. To symbolize this revenge, he breaks his own finger, equaling the suffering that Akai caused him. Even so, Arua manages to land a powerful punch on Akai's face, but ends up receiving a veritable hail of punches in return. Akai, irritated, does not take Arua seriously, which only intensifies the boy's determination. In the end, Arua tries one last attack, missing on purpose and throwing Akai against the wall. Meanwhile, Amano is blocking Rokudo's path. He prepares to fight, believing that it will not be easy. Sint, with blood in his eyes, is ready to chop Amano into pieces. The others try to run, but only Rokudo can resist the fire extinguisher that Amano uses. Rokudo realizes that Amano is cruel to his sister, Rino, who only wants to live a normal life. When Amano tries to throw a punch, he is surprised by Kazino, who grabs him from behind. After being released, Kazino kisses Amano's cheek, revealing the secret of their brotherly relationship. Amano's anger explodes. Since they were little, Kazino and Rino have always followed their brother, admiring him for everything he taught them. However, Rino finally realized that he was just an object in Amano's hands. During the fierce fight between the two, Rino promises to defeat his brother so that he can be a normal person, capable of saying, "I love you" to someone else. Even so, Amano easily defends each of Rino's blows and responds with brutal kicks. Despite Amano using the techniques he taught him, Rino begins to make progress with her own kicks. She doesn't want to be just a follower. She wants to be recognized for her own strength. With a decisive kick to the stomach, Rino leaves Amano completely devastated, begging her not to abandon him. However, in the end, she simply ignores him, removing her ring as a symbol of her independence and climbing towards the roof. Meanwhile, Rokudo remembers Kazino's kiss and is a little silly at the memory, but he soon comes back to the present when he sees so many people fallen around him. He is quickly pulled by Yui to the so-called love room. There, Yui confesses her feelings to Rokudo, but he just wants to get out of there. Trying to avoid any confrontation, he swears that he won't attack her, but Yui immediately whips him in the face. She explains that she is in the Onishima Union because she wants to meet strong and robust men, and believes that Rokudo is the man that destiny has in store for her. Without hesitation, Yui begins to take off her clothes, getting excited and mistreating Rokudo at the same time, stepping on him with pleasure. She enjoys humiliating whoever she wants, turning the moment into a nightmare of pain and submission for Rokudo. She soon starts whipping the boy until she stops and gives him a caress and then blindfolds him. The crazy woman sets the whip on fire, and out of fear of dying, he starts to struggle, and this makes Yui's fire go out, where we realize that she sees Rokudo as the strongest man in the world. The boy knows that she fears him because of the distortion of his power. He scares her, looking like a character from Baki so he can escape. But the stronger the person she fights, the more pleasure she feels. The whipping show starts again due to a simple oversight and almost falls out of the window. Even after being mistreated, the manly man chose to save her, leaving Yui's heart so tight with passion that it reaches its peak and she faints. When Rokudo finally reaches the roof, Hana was already striking Otohime a few blows. He screams her name but is immobilized by Daijie. He gives his subordinates everything they want, that's why he's on top. For him, Hana only wants violence. The maniacal smile on her face doesn't denies already in the last blow of Otohime. Rokudo steps in front, and he manages to convince the girl not to hurt her friends. However, sitting down, she gives the gift she had received from him and says goodbye. Himawari and confesses that she is not a good person, and only really feels alive when she is punching someone where she does not consider any of those people as a friend. Except Hokudo. He starts to cry, because she does not seem happy, and Himawari also cries this because she likes him. However, Rokudo knows that it is because of the spell. Alone he has no quality, and promises to become stronger to follow her. However, Himawari stops the tears and leaves the boy's side. Near Daiji, they head to the mouth of the underworld. However, Rokudo stops them. He wants to make Himawari happy and challenges Daiji, who would certainly feel pleasure beating the idiot dwarf. He asks Himawari not to interfere because he promised to be the strongest. However, when he goes after the boy, he gets punched in the stomach. He tries more and more, but this can generate more guilt in Himawari, making her move away even further. Hokudo is fed up with violence, but he hates someone so much that for the first time he lands a punch on Daiji's face. He can't let Himawari be taken with this cheap game that stimulates evil in her. And no matter how much he gets beaten and kisses the ground, Rokudo persists and almost has his arm broken. There is time for his group to arrive to stop him, but Hokudo doesn't want help. He wants to win with his own strength. However, the captain talks about his achievements during this time. Everything he did for the others was with his own strength, encouraging and accepting everyone, being told that they are all Daiji's strength. So he gets excited and just keeps throwing everyone who tries to attack into the air. Even Sanada is thrown, but is saved by Uber, who throws his motorcycle with everything he could to catch her. Rokudo is thrown like garbage on top of him. Of the others, Daiji needs strong people around him, because before he was bullied and suffered at the hands of bullies until he started giving them what they wanted so he could have protection. However, the boy doesn't know what makes him happy, and no matter how much power he already has, he wants it even more, and Himawari is the happiness he seeks. Daiji lifts Rokudo with just his hand because the boy insists that Himawari has a gentle side. In the meantime, Daiji beats up all the betas. Tomi asks Himawari why she fell in love with the boy if he hates fights and still fights for her. Daiji starts to get into trouble because the guys don't give up, and like a herd of angry oxen run towards him for the first time in a long time. Daiji is scared to death until Himawari stops the herd from attacking. She confesses all her feelings, and believes that there is no kindness in her. However, if Hokudo sees this, she prefers to trust him, immediately kneeling down and asking to come back to her side. However, he not only accepts, but returns the favor. Her gift, that happiness emanating from everyone and then not getting anything, was what he thought. But his gang arrives, and no matter how much they are insulted, they still see him as a leader, and they all leave together. Some time has passed, and it is another festival. We see that everything seems fine. Even Himawari is blossoming as a better person. However, Rokudo knows that he will meet more bad girls, and soon concluding that he will be able to face them with his companions. That was the end. If you liked it, hit the like and comment. I want cookies. Until next time. Bye-bye.